We're going to start walking through the rating tool, starting with the first subscale, operations and structure. The rating tool is something you're most likely interacting with when the review is done and you're offsite, back, home, or office. You click on the rating tool here. This is for a team that, again, is fake data and actually has gone through ratings, but for the sake of demonstration, it's okay to refer back to it. So similar to the interview tool, if you've gone through and made ratings, it's going to start crossing out those items. So although in theory, we are not at that place for our other team, if we were, it would look like this. So one thing that's super cool about eTMACT is that it pulls data in from other sources where relevant. And in some items like low ratio of clients to staff, eTMACT can pretty much tell us what the rating should be. So here, whenever you see a green anchor, this is the output that eTMACT is suggesting. Now, as long as everything looks okay here, we're fine. And you would click it and it turns blue. If you have some questions about information relevant to this item, you could always visit the interview responses where it'll pull up that interview, an item. You can take notes here to help explain further any information that you saw that could be relevant to the rating of this item. This information will be stored and saved and referenced when you come to your consensus meeting. As you make your rating, so you click it blue, see how it crosses out. Same with team approach. If it's pulling data, so right now this is not complete data because we haven't finished our chart review for the sake of this demonstration, but it's starting to do it live and pulling in, and it's going to be showing you the score along the way, and we are going to confirm it. And in some case, when it's numerical from the charts, you often shouldn't go outside of green. You should go to the source and try to recognize where the error was coming from. I'm going to move us back to look at that other team. So this was a complete chart. 10 charts were reviewed, 8 of which 80% it was clicked. If we change this, you will see what eTMACT is suggesting. And so we keep going through. Some of the items are designed for us to make some judgment calls in the rating. So for instance, with daily team meeting frequency and attendance, we have to indicate how many days a week they're being held. And also if the full attendance standard was met, yes or no. Now, if you need information to better understand the rating guidelines, they live up here in this PDF. This will open up in a new menu for you to refer to. So eTMACT is programmed to toggle with the changes in your rating. And what's going to be recorded in the consensus is your blue selection. OS4, looking at the quality of the daily team meeting. Now, this is one where you are clicking through a judgment. I'm going to revert back to the other team to show you this with a fresh review. So the quality of the daily team meeting. Now, we know that there's a piece of information living in log 2 about client schedules. You can click on this, a window will come up, and you go to that item to review what was found. Anytime you see tables like this, the rating examples and guideline tables, which all existed in paper-based eTMACT, it's going to be a pretty long scroll, but what you're doing is judging whether no credit partial or full credit was met, and where you can, summarize some brief notes that back up why you made that decision, or capture some ambivalence if you're kind of between partial and full. One thing to know in the text boxes here, if you start taking notes and then go off to hit partial, you will lose your notes. It is really important to get in the habit of writing your notes and immediately clicking that blue save button, and then you click your selection. These notes you take are going to migrate into the consensus tool. So when you're meeting with your co-evaluators and discussing where you have discrepancies, you have easy access to the notes of why you made your decision. So just selecting some to show you how it's set up. We selected everything, and look at that. eTMACT chose what was the correct selection, which in this case was a 3 rating. As you change, if you feel like, well, I believe this is a full, not a partial, and therefore I'm going to make it a 4, you should change it up above. Make the actual changes to the function ratings themselves. So let's say that this team is doing a great job and they have full credit across. See how eTMACT changed the rating to a 5. And again, capturing those judgments and notes here is good practice. Data sources is going to pull in, this one I'm not sure, it's reminding us that chart log 2. Moving on to program size, it's pulled in data from the team survey. We're just making sure nothing looks odd and selecting it and see how it crossed it out. Priority population, it's pulling in information from the chart review. So that tally 1 or tally, chart log 1, tally 8. And then we may have looked at the full caseload. So in this case, if we had looked at the full caseload, so they gave us a printout of everybody's diagnoses and we reviewed that, that information will always supersede a sample. So if we reviewed the whole information, and this is an incomplete chart review, hence why it says only 30%, but let's just go ahead and say 70. If we put in 70 here, actually take that back. It's actually a higher standard. Let's go ahead and put 90, see how it just moved up. eTMACT knows that this information is given more weight than just a sample. But in some reviews, you will not have gathered this information, so you should leave it blank, and that's where eTMACT chose. And the same thing is as you select your choices, it will lead to eTMACT knowing which of the anchors to choose, and then you confirm by pressing blue. Active recruitment. It pulls a lot of information again over from the team survey. And then 2 of the items, criteria, are already being selected for us because it's the data that led to it. And just as a reminder, if something looks off, you should go to the source and change it there. The lead evaluator has the ability to update and change information in the client survey and the team survey. They're the only ones. Instead of overriding it here and not explaining things, try to change the data source if something is incorrect. And so, like before, you need to confirm with your blue, and then that's what results in the selection down here. And then you can always go back and look at interview sources. It's going to keep opening a new window. So usually you just keep one open and refer to it. And then gradual admission rate. This is pulling in data. I'm going to pivot to the other team just to show you. Well, actually, I'll just look at this. So the team survey said 3, and it brings in the enrollment information here. So now when they set up the client roster, they're indicating how many people enrolled in each of the months. And it's a way to corroborate what they told you in the team survey, or if you see serious discrepancies, to go pursue some clarification. Transition, remind you of how many people did graduate, gives you some tip information, such as if you didn't have anybody graduate, how do you make these decisions? And same thing, clicking through as we did before. Retention rate is an output coming from data that was already submitted in a team survey. And hospitalizations. This one ends up being a little bit, let me bring us to the other team to look at. Okay, so here is probably one thing that's a little bit, you got to kind of like go back to. And I'll probably have a separate video on this because it is something people will trip up on at times. The co-evaluator cannot create this output of 71%. It's going to come from the lead evaluator's input and judgments in the team survey. But the 2 of you or 3 of you should be working together to come up with those judgments. Everyone will be asked, are there examples of involvement exclusive to only one type? If yes, this will decrease by 1 rating anchor. So we'll just say no here. So we've already confirmed eTMACT suggests 4, we confirmed. But the lead evaluator, this is where this information is coming from. In the interview, actually, sorry, it's in the team survey. The lead interview or evaluator, sorry, would be going under hospitalizations. And they're judging this: admission involvement confirmed, discharge involvement confirmed. The co-evaluators do not have the ability to do this. It's just the lead. That's why it's important that there's some communication and discussion, and then they're inputting this on behalf of both of them. This is the information that then is used to make that rating within the hospitalization item. And then finally, program assistants. Do they have somebody in this role? Who is it? How many hours a week? That calculates, let's just, I'm guessing right now from this team, that helps calculate this. And then you're making the judgments below. And then eTMACT knows what to produce. So that is our operations instruction subscale within the rating tool. Each co-evaluator or evaluator will be completing the rating tool on their own. Their data they submit will then funnel into what is called the consensus ratings tool.